Hello, everyone. This is a game from round 6 of the Fide Grand Prix tournament that's going on. Today is November 22nd, and there was a rest day yesterday on the 21st. So here's a nice game from round 6. GM Alexander Rizantzev has the white pieces versus GM Richard Rapport. So the game started off d4, e6, and Rapport should be well known to play unorthodox openings by now. So nobody really should be surprised that by this move e6 or even b6 or something like that on his first move is black. So c4, and this is a nice flexible move. As you know, if e4 is played, then the player has to be prepared to go into, say, a French defense, for example. This is an old way of avoiding the Dutch, recommended by Bavanik years ago. It avoids a lot of the anti-Dutch systems. And for the most part, if a player plays d4, he's not going to just switch to e4 because of the move e6. He's going to try to stay in his own lane, so to speak. But if you're prepared to play e4, d4, it doesn't matter, then e6 is a good move. So Rizantzev plays a c4, and now we have a Dutch defense. So he's Rapport that is has avoided some anti-Dutch systems, for instance, starting gambit or these early moves like bishop g5, etc. These will all fall under anti-Dutch in no particular order. Not saying they're good or bad, but this just adds, some work when it comes to preparation that you have to look out for. All of these type of moves might not be the best, but they're not moves that can, just be ignored. And of course, let me not forget about the old faithful Stone Gambit, which many players like to use. So anyway, e6 helps to avoid a lot of that stuff, but you must be prepared for the move e4. So c4, f5 was played, g3, and this is a classical Dutch system with e6, knight f6, bishop g2, bishop e7. It's pretty straightforward. Knight f3, and now Richard opts for the Stonewall defense. If he wanted to play a classical system, he could just castle and perhaps play d6, c6, moves like that, and keep the e5 square protected. He opts for the Stonewall, d5, castle, and again, one of the major knocks on the Stonewall is that it weakens the dark squares, and it also makes it very difficult to make something positive happen with this bishop. So many things have been tried to, make this bishop work. Whether it's, after the Stonewall is established with the c6, some players like Grandmaster Igor Glek play a move like b6 and put the bishop on b7 or a6. There's this old Botvinnik maneuver of bishop d7, followed by bishop to e8, followed by bishop out to h5, and of course you can see how time-consuming that is. And that, along with that problem with the bishop, along with the traditional problem of just the weakness on the dark squares, namely e5, it's kind of a bit of a put-off to many top players, but nevertheless, it's solid enough, and the Stonewall makes its appearances every now and then. 94 by Richard, just grabbing occupation of the square e4. Of course, it's not a losing move or anything, but of course he could have did something more constructive, like castle, right, or play another move, c6. The knight is well placed, so why move it again? So 94. Simple and straightforward. Knight c3, and this just gives white the lead in development when you do stuff like that. Knight f6 to knight e4. There's really no reason for that move in particular. Okay, so c6 now, and now uh Rizantzev does a move that I don't particularly like. Again, there's more important things to do in the position. Knight d2. First of all, you're moving the knight back to the second rank, and the only only real idea here is to play f3 at some point. But to me, why do it, right now? And and then after knight d2, black can just circumvent this idea by just exchanging. So let's say knight d2, and now this pawn is not protected. And so say queen d2, and you can even take here, or if you don't want to break up your Stonewall, perhaps just castle then. All right, white again. White is not. I mean, black is not lost or anything, but and white is not winning. It's just that you're helping black get closer to equality. So knight d2 is played, and then Rapport moves the knight for a third time. Knight d6. So I mean, already I don't really like the black game, but it's a closed position, and in a closed position you can get away with moving the pieces more than several times and making these kind of maneuvers. But even here, I think it's a bit excessive. But I feel that Rizantzev doesn't like push the issue, make a Rapport pay for this loss of time. Instead, he just plays b3, which is okay. It's like, okay, maybe you want to bring the bishop out to a3 or b2. Um, but it's kind of like, the way I'm feeling is that, all right, you got this lead in development. Black seems to be wasting a little time. There should be a little more here that you can do in this position, or you should be looking to get a little more aggressive. So, for example, c5, attacking the knight, right? The knight keeps jumping around, and let's say he just hops back in. Okay, now you can take. Which pawn you want to take with? Let's take with the f pawn, right? That looks reasonable. f3, and now you just start going, trying to open up the position. Let's say bishop f6, right? Let's say black is trying to counteract too. Now you just move here, knight b3. The Stonewall can't stand, so the best move is to take. And white has a good game here. I mean, black is stuck with this pawn, this backward pawn on e6. And white's plan is real clear. You play rook e1, and then bishop f1, and you bring the other rook to the c file, and then you play queen d2. All right. So let's say, for example, still like a regular move in the castle, rook e1. Let's say rook e8, because he wants to get rid of this weakness. Bishop f4. Let's say b6, right, to get, to help this guy out. There's two good moves here. You could just play rook c1 here, or a move like bishop h3. Then if a move like bishop b7, then you could just start piling up on this pawn. And then white just has a nice pleasant game with tons of pressure on the black position. So that's just a sample, but that's how I feel like white should have played, is for just generally. Black has wasted some time. Is try to take advantage of that time and attack and open up the position before he's prepared. He only has a knight and bishop developed, for goodness sake. And you have both knights, bishop, you're castled. You should be trying to find a way to be a little more aggressive here. Instead, b3, Okay, B3 doesn't really do nothing, so Richard is able to just go on, with the program, making awkward type moves and stuff. So knight D7, A4, and here is Rizantzev just he's trying to play a simple game where he just plays like similar to the Carlsbad structure where he plays B4, B5, exchanges on C6 and brings the base of the pawn chain from B7 to C6. Then open up the C file and then try to attack the weaknesses there. All right. Now this plan is a good plan, but it's kind of slow, and this emboldens Rapport, who doesn't even bother the castle, but he immediately starts an attack on the kingside. Right, weak dark squares and all. He just basically doesn't respect white here. B4, and so you can see again there's some issue here with this B3, knight D7, A4, right? Then he does B4 right after that. So he just did B3 on move 9, and then now 11 he's doing B4. So there's something wrong, and this is what allows black to kind of, be able to waste time and still get a good position, because white is wasting time also. So it seems like white got a little confused somewhere. This confusion gives black the opportunity to use a straightforward and real primitive plan. Leave the rook developed right on the H file and just throw the H pawn down white's throat, rip open the H file, and then start attacking, which is the most primitive plan in the Dutch. I mean, he's not even developed properly, black's pieces, but yet he's attacking. However, white has allowed his pieces to become awkward. Like those two knights don't look right on D2 and C3 like that. B5, so he continues on. Of course, black is going to ignore that on the queen side and open the king side. This is what happens. Knight F6, queen B3, still sticking to this plan, attacking on the queen side. Bishop D7, and now Richard is pretty much almost caught up in development here. Right, he has a nice, actually, yeah, he's pretty good. His pieces are in their optimal positions. A5, again, this plan is very slow. A6, so there it is. B takes C6, B takes C6. Took long enough. Now bishop A3, one of the strategic aims against the Stonewall and these type of structures in general where you put a bunch of pawns on a certain color complex. The major strategic idea is always to trade the bishop, right? That's guarding the squares of the opposite color, because once you get rid of that bishop, then you can place your pieces on that color now because it's not adequately guarded, right? So it's basically removing the security guard of the dark squares, okay? Because the pawns being on the light squares mean that the dark squares are weak. So that means black has to use his dark square bishop to kind of patrol and keep an eye on those corridors, right? Since there's no pawns, he has to use his pieces to try to protect the dark squares. So of course the dark square bishop is the number one piece for that job. So therefore it's strategically valid to, as white, to play and try to exchange your bishop, dark square bishop, for black's dark square bishop. But notice even here, Rapport has his knight on D6, making that trade rather difficult. Rook B8. This stifles Rizantzev's play on the queen side and slows it down. So not only is Richard attacking on the king side, but he's stifling black's progress on the queen side. And once that happens, he'll have Richard, that is, will have a complete free hand on the other side of the board. Knight F4, typical Stonewall moves. F takes E4. Rook FB1, rook takes, queen takes, and E3. Interesting move by Rapport, basically just weakening the white queen side, king side. Now he's taking tremendous risk because again he didn't even castle. He's allowing queen G6, so he must have calculated all of this stuff here. I mean, F takes E3 Seems pretty normal. And I'm sure he had this idea right here of knight f5 attacking e3 and g3. But then bishop takes e7. Let's say queen takes e7. Queen b8 check. What to do, right? You got to do that. Queen d8. Perhaps rook b1. I don't know. Knight takes e3. But that looks pretty risky after a move like queen e5, attacking the knight here and threatening to play rook b8. However, white did not take the pawn at all and checked first. I mean, that's a natural looking move to throw the check in there. Knight f7. So bishop takes, queen takes, and now he takes the pawn. F takes e3. However, his queen is not in a position it was in the other variation, where it was in the position to go to b8 with check. So instead, it's on g6. Rapport castles anyway. And now queen d3 from Rapport. Queen g5. Now e4. D takes c4, knight takes c4, and I think this is a key moment in the game right here, one of several. And that Rapport plays the move c5. And ideally, white would like to play d5. But Rapport's idea with c5 is to play this move right here, which is very annoying, holding this knight and queen kind of hostage for a little bit. So, for example, d5, and let's say e takes d5, e takes d5, and bishop b5. He had this little pin to deal with. So maybe you had to play a move like queen b3 or something like that. But it's very double-edged here. So even after say like that, rook e8 is possible. It's a lot of play for black still. If bishop takes, queen takes g3. So it's unclear. It's very unclear. So he would like to play d5, but he probably saw that and was like, I'll pass on that. And so therefore, Rizantzev played queen e3. Queen takes e3, knight takes e3, c takes d4, so he just gives up this pawn. And now the pawns are equal. But black's pawns are pretty dangerous though. Knight c2, attacking the pawn, e5. Now Rizantzev has figured this out. He figured he'll just attack this pawn. Nice move by Rapport, attacking the knight now. Knight moves. Now he plays d takes e3. Now surely white is figuring, okay, that pawn is just a straggler. I'll pick it up when it's convenient. So bishop f1 is played, which of course hinders the progress of this pawn, and it double attacks this a pawn. Rook b8, attacking the knight again. Knight takes a6, right, with tempo. However, Rapport comes right down to the second rank. It's pretty dangerous. And this pawn is still lingering. Now here's a key moment of the game. Rizantzev plays the natural move. Natural move. This is actually a one move blunder though. Natural move is knight c5. Okay, it attacks this bishop here on d7. It gets the knight out of the way, so this pawn on the a file can promote. Right, it does some positive things, even if need be. Perhaps, right, some lines a knight could even come back here. So it's a good move. However, it doesn't pass the acid test, which is tactics. And the reason why is because with this pawn, right, that white allowed to come into his territory, this pawn in combination with this rook on the second rank leave white dangerously, the white king dangerously limited as far as squares to go to. If you look at this position right now, the king only has one square to go to be safe, right? It can't go anywhere here because the rook is guarding the second rank. It only has one square to go to. This is why knight c5 is unsound. Knight g5. And just like that, it's mate in one. If knight takes d7, then the knight simply drops in to f3, and then you see the mate right on h2 with the rook. Okay, so um, Rizantzev, perhaps in time trouble, right? This is move 36. He overlooked a two mover, basic two mover here in this position. So he played knight c5, knight g5, um, bishop g2, right? Looks good enough because I just showed you what the threat was, knight f3. So this stops the knight from, coming in, and the bishop is still attacked. And this is probably the move that was overlooked by Rizantzev. He probably saw the knight coming to g5, but he missed this move right here, bishop h3. Now the bishop is double attacked, and then if the bishop takes, he still loses in the same manner, and this is what happens. Rizantzev played bishop takes h3, knight f3, and then the mate idea is still on board. However, the only difference is that white has the choice to go to f1. Okay, but if he goes to f1, he still gets mated. So, for example, king f1, then rook. Let me just say this real quick. If king f1, then rook f2 is going to lead the mate, and if king h1, then rook h2. So same scenario. So Rizantzev had to resign. So good game by Rapport. I mean, you know what? I can't even say good game. I mean, the game wasn't, the quality of the game was, the quality of the game was low. I can't even I can't even like really say it was a good game. I mean, Rapport played like he usually plays. I mean, like it was real suspect, and it seemed like his opponent kind of got little like unraveled, and then he made some, suspicious looking moves. And I'm sure he would say that too. So again, I know there's a lot of people out there, they wanna, they're gonna start playing the Stonewall and think that it's this great opening and all this stuff like that. Listen, the Stonewall's all right, but it's, it has its reputation for a reason. Um, but in this game, again, there was a lot of, like I said, White came out and it had a decent lead in the opening. I mean, after this premature 94, White had a decent chance to really stick it to black. But then he played this move, knight d2, which is, again, it's okay. After knight d6, he still had an opportunity because knight d6 wasn't a great move. He could have played c5. Again, just sticking it to him. Start attacking. All his weakness in a black position. And then of course later on, he allowed black to do this. Just basically not castle and just run up the king side. And yeah, again, he basically white let black just do too much in the position, and he still had chances. He still had chances like up, late in the game. Um, but like perhaps e4 wasn't the best move. But again, it looks like when you look at it from here, it looks like those pawns are mobile. But then again, Rapport played a good move here with this move c5, and then it kind of really bogs white down. So that's why I have to go back and say that e4 Regis is the other ones. So instead of instead of e4, there maybe just some kind of maneuvering, uh, some maneuvering, maybe rook f1 or something like that. It's possible, but maybe just holding to guard the pawn. So again, there's little subtleties, but okay, e4. Okay, not that's a mistake, but I could see that being overlooked because it's a natural move to make. And c5 was just a good counter shot by Rapport. So anyway, that's it. This game like kind of games like this kind of frustrate me a little bit, but because again it's like the result often covers up the quality of play because you're looking at it like, oh, he won, Rapport won with the Stonewall. And it's kind of like when you look at the game, though, you see that it's not even really about the opening. So, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Donate if you can or feel like it, or if you're rich, it's Thanksgiving. You know, send some turkey money or something. Um, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I'll see you guys on the next video.